Greetings from another hotel room. It's raining pretty hard outside my hotel room. Can you tell? Hotel room. This one in Norfolk, Nebraska. I'm still solo. Michael is with his friend Toby and Bethany up in Montana, and he's about to build a whole new bicycle, so I'm not sure when he'll rejoin, but he's planning to. He says, look out. It's been a day short of a week, but I just finished riding the Cowboy Trail, and that seems like a natural break. So here's my progress, completion of the Cowboy Trail. Folks have said that I need to be posting more pictures and less talking, less me, and I really meant to do that. But as much as I've enjoyed Nebraska and the people and the little towns, it just hasn't been as picturesque as some of the other places I've been through already. So I'll try to do better in terms of taking more pictures and that kind of stuff, but there will be some. Here we go. The Cowboy Trail is a Rails to Trails project, which I've talked about before. It's where they've taken an old railroad bed and ripped up the tracks and turned it into a biking, walking, whatever way. And this one's almost 200 miles long. It has been 200 for me once I include all my little diversions into campsites and all that sort of stuff. So let's get to each day. It starts in Valentine, Nebraska. Some folks have said it already starts a little bit west of there, but I rode as far as I could just to see where it started, and I think it really does start in Valentine. First day, I made it from Valentine to Ainsworth, Nebraska. Pedaling on that loose surface is tough, or was tough, especially when it's wet or when they've just groomed it, and I would accidentally hit deep spots and it would really slow me down. Felt like I was dragging something behind my bike almost. But when it was solid, it was good, and I made good progress. I almost wish I had even wider tires when I'm on this loose surface. And for the rest of my trip, the Katy Trail in Missouri, the Ohio to Erie Trail, or system of trails in Ohio, the C&O Canal, I think the Gap Trail in Pennsylvania, all of those are going to be pretty much the same kind of loose surface. So bigger tires might have been a good idea, but I'm thrilled with my tires. Schwalbe Marathon Supreme. And again, they're not supposed to be run without tubes, but I've been running mine tubeless. And I've been following other YouTubers talking about the Cowboy Trail, and one guy that I saw a couple days ago complained that in the first 2 miles he had 2 flats. There are these things called Texas something spurs, Texas sand burrs, and I've plucked one out of my tire already, but no leaks. So I'm really happy with these Schwalbe Marathon Supreme tires. No leaks so far. Wow. No flats at least. Right out of Valentine, you come to a bridge, and I'm afraid of heights, and I was walking my bike across this bridge. I got some pictures. I launched the drone and shot down from on high. It's high and scary, and I can just imagine going across it in an old railroad car looking down at that water. That would have been a bit harrowing. But it was pretty cool. From there, as I cruised on down the trail, there's a game for the Cowboy Trail called Snake or Stick. And when you're looking 50, 100 feet ahead and you see something in the trail, you can't tell whether it's a snake or a stick. And as you get closer, if it moves, it was a snake. And I saw about 4 snakes on the first 20 miles of the Cowboy Trail. I still haven't seen a rattlesnake. And somebody I talked to, I described it, and they said it sounded like a bull snake, and I've never heard of a bull snake before, but there you go. Also saw a pretty big snapping turtle by one of the many little lakes, ponds, and ducks flying in and out of the ponds. Kind of cool. I ended up that morning at a town called Wood Lake. Town is being gracious. I thought I might be camping there, but I rode around and there was no place to camp. There was one little restaurant. I went in. I was there for about an hour having my burger. Nobody else came in. It was just me, so I got back on the trail and headed farther east. And that's when I saw my first up close and personal Nebraska sand dunes. I am riding through the sand dunes of Nebraska. There's my trail, the Cowboy Trail, kind of loosey, gravelly stuff. But these are grass-covered sand dunes as far as you can see. And apparently there's a tremendous amount of it in Nebraska, coming up to a little bridge. Yay! Sand dunes of Nebraska. There you go. Wow. The geography of the country continues to amaze me, from the mountains to the lava flows and now sand dunes in Nebraska. They're covered in grass, but apparently there's a huge aquifer that's the remnants of some prehistoric sea, and these dunes are also a remnant of that, but they go on for miles and miles and miles, and they're huge. Who knew? Nebraska sand dunes. I got a little bit fatigued plodding my way through the Cowboy Trail's loose surface, so I went back to my old nemesis, Route 20, which runs exactly parallel, sometimes only a few dozen feet from the trail. And when you're on the trail, you almost always hear what little road noise there is because you're right next to Route 20 for most of the trail. But I went out onto Route 20, and wow, what a change. Route 20, the shoulder was smooth. It was, I would guess, about 8 feet wide after the rumble strip. It was just a pleasure to ride on. I made great time on Route 20. Wasn't the least bit intimidated by the semis going by because the shoulder was so wide. No hills, Nebraska, flat the whole way across. I won't keep saying it, but man, flat, 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 flat. Got to another lovely city park. These small towns that I've been visiting, seems like every one of them has a little city park. Towns of 300 people have a lovely city park with restrooms and showers, and almost every town I've come to, especially in Nebraska, has a little rodeo area with the chutes and everything for the horses or bulls or whatever they're letting out into the main arena. But every little town has a city park and a rodeo facility. Did not expect that. So that day I got to Ainsworth, lovely city park. Got in my tent early because there were a lot of flies. And overnight there were thunderstorms. So woke up the next morning in the Ainsworth City Park. Had cooked breakfast in the men's room because it was raining. So I took my little stove and everything into the men's room and cooked my breakfast. I thought I was going to have to spend that whole day in my tent because it was raining in the morning. But it finally broke, and it looked like there was going to be a break for a couple of hours. So I jumped on my bike and I dashed off another 16 miles to the town of Bassett. I'm going to call that Camp Bird Poop because there were swallows nesting in the ceiling of the shelter that I pitched my tent next to, so I would have a picnic table to lay myself out on and all that sort of stuff. I always try to pitch my tent as near as I can to the bathroom and as near as I can to a shelter so I can arrange my stuff. Met a lovely family from Arkansas who were serious cyclists, and they wanted to see my bike and learn all about it and that sort of stuff. They were driving across country with their 2 little daughters, but they were serious cyclists, and they were very knowledgeably asking questions about my bike and that sort of stuff. Deputy stopped by and explained to me the town pump, which doesn't quite work. It pumps to a degree, but then there's a crack and you can hear the water, I guess, down below splashing over. But anyway, this old town pump was kind of cool. I mentioned that family, and that brings to mind something else. So I've now done the 200-mile Cowboy Trail on and off of the trail and Route 20 and Route 275. I haven't seen another through cyclist, another bike packer, the whole time. I have not had another bike packer in any of these city parks. It's just been me. That really surprised me. I thought I'd occasionally be overtaken by another bike packer moving as fast as Michael, but no, it's just been me on the trails and in the parks, which has been a little bit lonely, but that's okay. So that was Bassett. Day 3, I made it to ONeill, bigger town. It was an easy 50 miles on and off of the Cowboy Trail. Saw several road runners, which I guess should have expected up here, but there were quite a few of them dashing back and forth across the trail and US 20. Lots of small town culture. That's one of the things I've really been looking forward to on this whole ride, and it has not disappointed. In this case, it was Sunday, and I was hungry, so I stopped into Dairy Queen to get their chicken salad and a Misty brain freeze. Oh my gosh. I can remember that so vividly. But it was right after church, and the Dairy Queen was packed, mainly with older folks coming in there to socialize and have lunch or just an ice cream cone. But I've seen older folks in every cafe that I've gone into that's had anybody in it. Middle of Nebraska seems rather elderly. Good farm people, really nice to chat with. And the Dairy Queen in, where was I? ONeill seemed to be the place to be. From there, I headed to the city park. It was lovely. They're all just, it's amazing that these towns of 300, 1,000, maybe 2,000 people have these huge city parks, but they do. I don't know how they afford it. It's certainly not from the $10 that I put in the till when I'm staying in one of them. But that was a boring afternoon. I spent about 6 hours just sitting in the shelter, wandering around this little rodeo area park. There was nobody there. I did bring out my phone and brought up YouTube TV and watched a couple of TV shows because I was bored. I don't want to do a lot of TV like that on this trip, but that was a boring day. The next morning, headed out to a town that I'm not sure how to pronounce, Neely, Neligh, Nebraska. Rolled into this town. They were getting ready for the 4th of July. It was the 3rd, the day before the 4th. And the bandstand was being set up downtown. All the shops and stores, even though it was a Monday, were closed. And I'm standing on the sidewalk looking at my phone, trying to find something open. And a young woman goes into a store and says, "You looking for lunch or something?" I said, "Yes." And she, "I'm sorry, we're closed today." And she went into a restaurant. A couple minutes later, I think her mother comes out and says, "You looking for lunch?" I said, "Yes." She goes, "Come on in. The place is a wreck. We'll take care of you." And the place was a wreck. They'd had a big street music festival the night before, and it looked like everything just got dumped into this restaurant when it was over. But sure enough, she gave me a bag of chips and a slice of rhubarb pie, one of my favorites, and a barbecue sandwich and a lemonade. And it was just awesome, real tour magic, and she wouldn't accept payment for it. So I left a big tip for the 2 girls that had waited on me, but wow, great tour magic. She opened her restaurant, closed all day, cooked up something for me. She had a barbecue sandwich too, and we chatted a bit. It was just a great example of tour magic. So I was on and off of the Cowboy Trail and US 20, and by that time, 20 had gone off to the north, and I was now on 275. Same thing, big wide shoulder, smooth, rumble strip, no hills. Man, if the shoulders had been like this back in Idaho and part of Wyoming and Oregon, it would have been a very, very different trip. This was not scary at all. I was on the Cowboy Trail for a lot of it, but when I went out to the main road, it was just great. Oh, and there was one bridge out. The approach to a bridge had been washed out a couple years before, and they hadn't fixed it. And there was a few places where the crushed, whatever it is, it's the substrate or surface, was just so thick that it was like riding your bicycle in a sandbox, and I got back on the road when I would hit those. Riverside Park in Neely, whatever the town is, huge park. There must have been 100 RVs there, staying from Sunday through the 4th of July. People just pulled in to spend most of the week. I met some really great people there because there were people there. A guy named Steve and his son-in-law, whose name I didn't catch, and the son-in-law's two little boys, ages I think 2 and 4, Miles and Chase, were just so much fun to talk with. Really nice people from that area, and I've made so many great acquaintances like that on this ride. Really enjoyed chatting with them. And then the cannon fire started. Apparently in Neely, or whatever it is, they inaugurate the 4th of July not just with big ass firecrackers, but with cannon fire. And at least 2 shots of this went off, and man, did I jump, and everybody laughed. And it went on into the night with all the fireworks then. This was Monday. Yeah, yesterday, Monday. And into the night. And then this morning, the 4th of July, I got up there about 6 a.m., a little bit before 6. And sure enough, this cannon went off twice more. Anybody in town that was trying to sleep on the 4th of July morning was rudely awakened by those cannon shots. Lots of small town culture that I just thought was so cool. There was a little pickup truck with a cage built on the whole bed of the truck full of young guys, and apparently the sheriff goes around and picks up guys out of their house, and he keeps them in this cage until somebody will pay a $20 bounty to get them out. And they can be in there for hours if nobody pays what it takes to get that kid out. And it's a way to make some money for the town, and everybody was having a lot of fun with that. There were a couple of trolleys being pulled by tractors from the campsite or the RV park all the way up into town for people to see the big concert that was going on that night, and just more small town culture that I just thought was really cool. This was a big park, swimming pool right next to the Elkhorn River, tennis courts, biggest horseshoe facility I think I've ever seen. Bathrooms were okay. Took a shower. That was Neely. And this morning, got up early because it was supposed to start raining by noon, and pedaled right very quickly to the end of the Cowboy Trail here in Norfolk, Nebraska, where I am now. Got some great news, which I'd forgotten about. Today's July 4th, and that's the day that my son Daniel's new book became officially available. So I quickly downloaded it on Audible. I've already read a draft of it that he provided back when he was still writing it, but now I get to listen to the whole thing on a couple of my, probably several days of my ride. But I'm really excited about Daniel's new book, which I thought was really, really good, coming out, so I can listen to it on Audible. And that's pretty much it for the Cowboy Trail. I somehow expected it to be a little bit more picturesque than I found it. It was woods on one side or farms, the highway on the other side and farms. The sand dunes were kind of cool, but there wasn't a whole lot else to see. The people and the city park after city park were just lovely. The roads were very, very friendly when I wasn't on the Cowboy Trail. And tomorrow morning, I head off to Omaha. I think that'll probably take me 2 days of riding if I really push it. It's about 130 miles, I think, to Omaha, something like that, depending on the route, and I've still got to plan out my route. And then I'm not sure how I'm going to get from Omaha to the beginning of the Katy Trail, which is my next Rails to Trails endeavor. But that's coming up in a couple days. So that's my latest. That was the Cowboy Trail. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.